Hello and welcome back to the Making Things Work podcast, where we discuss topics around digital transformation and leadership in the workplace. I'm your host, Duncan Prior, and I help organizations simplify and transform through the use of technology. And today I'm delighted to be joined by Jim Junker, and today's topic is the intriguing title, Digital Water. Jim is the Senior Vice President of Technology and Innovation for Aegion, and I could just introduce you, Jim, and ask you to explain what Aegion does for those who haven't heard of the company.
Yeah, no, thanks, Duncan. Fantastic to see you again and to be able to spend some time with you today. Yeah, Aegion, we're in the water business. In the UK, people may know us by our core business, which is in situ form, and we're basically in the business of lining, rehabilitating water and wastewater piping, among other things. So, pioneer in the industry, invented in the UK, which is interesting in itself. And it all has to do with sort of what we call in the industry trenchless technology. You know, if you just think about it at a sort of a fundamental level, digging up pipes is very, very, very disruptive. So if you can do things like what we do with different technologies and line these pipes, make it less disruptive for our customers, less disruptive for the cities in which we work, you know, all of that is a really good thing.
Okay, great. So I've been really looking forward to catching up today. We spoke recently. But the first thing I wanted to do is explain how our paths have crossed, because you're obviously you're calling in from Houston in Texas today. I'm here in the UK, and we met in 2020 as part of an exec community that's put together by JT O'Donnell and the Work It Daily team. And JT has over 3 million followers on LinkedIn, and her key message to all executives is revolves around publishing content, and here we are. So I'd encourage everyone to sort of check out workitdaily.com, get in touch with Jim or myself if you want to find out more information about the work that JT does. So Jim, I've got so many nice memories from that period of being part of that group. Obviously, it was a challenging period, but what are your reflections from that period?
Wow, it seems long ago. Probably pretty crazy times, actually. If I think back, Duncan, to when we first met, I just sort of repatriated my family from Dubai. I was in Dubai for a couple of years on an assignment, so we'd moved back to the U.S. to Houston, and around that time, probably contributing to all that was COVID was on the rise, right? So we got back, COVID was in full swing. And I don't know exactly how it was in the UK, but over here, the kids were all wearing masks, or they were doing homeschooling and doing sort of Zoom calls. And then sort of professionally, right, we were all working from home for the first time ever for some of us. And we weren't traveling at all. And so for me, it was a very different time. And it was a great time, obviously, to reach out and get connected with different people, and it's where I met yourself, and it was great because we were all in pretty different circumstances.
Yes, yeah, and then you kept in touch with that group. There was about 10 of us, wasn't there, altogether? I'm in touch with some of the folks by various, and some of us are still working with JT, and you're still in touch with quite a few folks there.
So it's your network is your net worth, right? And and so particularly in this era of more collaboration is better, it's certainly helpful.
Yes. So tell me about your new role at Aegion. Then you just joined the company, and then could you just talk a bit about this concept of cured in place pipe, and then we'll lead on to the technology bit a bit later.
Yeah, so the way to think about cured in place pipe in kind of simple terms is, if you think about, the infrastructure, underground pipes, subject to a lot of decay, everything from, to break down because of water, tree roots, just a lot of things can impact sort of underground infrastructure. And so it needs to be repaired. And so this sort of cured in place pipe is a technology that was, again, invented in the UK in early 1970s. And so it hasn't been around that long. And basically, think about it as as inserting some kind of a felt, but a composite sort of liner in the pipe. You've got some curing agents and some other chemicals and stuff that help it. And then you sort of bake it, if you will, with steam or water, or you cure it in some way while it's in place. So you don't have to dig it up. You can put this sleeve, if you will, or this sock inside a pipe, and if done properly, it restores it to like new condition and can last as much as 50 or 100 years. And so, particularly in Europe, less so in the US, but we all have aging infrastructure.
Yeah.
And sort of the ability to sort of rehabilitate things without having to dig up and start over is a very efficient way of doing things.
Yes. And then so whilst you've had, I guess, leadership roles in the past where that sort of encompassed IT and technology, now your new role, you have direct responsibility for technology and innovation.
Yeah, I mean, hey, in today's technology world, right? Everybody's in IT.
Yes.
All right. I mean, if you're not, I mean, you need it. You need IT to fire up your computer in the morning. So
yeah.
I mean, it's a different working environment than it was when you and I started. So no, I mean, our view, I guess, at our company is it's a strong partnership. We do have an IT department. They build a lot of the systems and a lot of the structure that we need. But in our business in particular, where we've got crews out there, we're uploading terabytes of data to the cloud in real time from our trucks. These users of information have just got to be, sort of very well linked, to the IT department and to the IT systems, because we use them kind of every minute of every day.
Yes.
So it's quite a partnership, more than certainly more than it was just a few years ago.
Yeah, fascinating. Yes, because we very much espouse that point as well, that really the big decisions are technology related in pretty much any company these days. So with respect to putting in place the pipes and what have you, where does the technology come in there then for that specific part of it, as opposed to the typical line of business applications, for example?
Yeah. So no, that's a great question. I guess I would probably two main areas is the right way to sort of think about that. If you think about, sort of the initial step is, you think about underground pipes, you think about small, a lot of our pipes are 8-10 inch diameter. You've got to crawl down a manhole in some cases to get there, kind of far underground. So we use as part of our daily work, we use a lot of robots. So you're able to put this robot down in there. You can't get a person in there. So a lot of robotics in moving the robot, taking pictures. You've got to inspect the pipe. And then later on, you've got to, if you choose to do an intervention, if you choose to do a CIPP fix, a lining, a repair of some kind, we've got even fancier robots that help sort of perform that intervention. So the robotics piece of it is sort of inherent to what you have to do to sort of work underground safely and efficiently. The other area, though, that's probably developing even faster is just around the data management. All of this video, has information on it that the water district, the municipal, the city, needs to see, so that they can make decisions on how to most efficiently deploy their funds. And so there's all this information. And, it used to be that, that was downloaded to a DVD or a floppy disk, or a thumb drive. Now, obviously, with our interconnected world and most places, particularly in the U.S., kind of being, 5G ready, in most of the areas, we can operate in real time, and the handling of that data is just much faster and much more efficient. So, and that's changing every day, right?
Yeah, yeah. Is that where the innovation is then? Where is in the processing of that data in some sort of an automated ways, I guess?
Better data, more data, better data, faster processing, all leads to, better outcomes, more productivity, and in some cases, safer working conditions. So, I don't see that part of it, changing ever.
So a typical city then has got, take Houston for example. There's more problems than there is, say, money. So it's a risk management exercise of trying to assess everything that's going on and to make the most effective decisions at the time to solve the biggest problems.
Exactly. Better information, better technology gives you better information so people can make better decisions and absolutely allocate the funds that are available in the most efficient way to keep the infrastructure working.
Yeah, one of the things we talked about when we caught up recently that really struck me was this whole idea of just making work better as well. You've got, historically, it would just be people, going down manhole covers every day, and now you've got the opportunity to kind of make the work more sort of balanced and interesting, where maybe there's a bit of that where it's essential, but you can also operate remotely with the robots and cameras and what have you.
Yeah, no, I think, the world is sort of changing in that way too. I mean, we focus, obviously with the robotics, kind of step one is safety. It all starts with kind of safety for us, but increasingly workforce limitations and the desire, I think, for people to want to work remotely, whether it be in an office or from home in some way, is prevalent, around the world. So we are, to that conversation, we are looking at how can we today, you've got to have crews on the site in the truck, or yesterday you had to have crews on the site in the truck because you had to be able to see it, you had to be able to touch it, you had to be there directly. But increasingly, you can do some of that stuff remotely. And when you think about robotics, in general terms, it looks like the control system looks like a Game Boy. It's a video game controller. Today's generation are very comfortable with doing, not just with a keyboard, but with a game controller, you can do a lot of neat things. And if you can fight through some of those latency issues and some of those challenges of internet and some of those things, and allow, your best people to maybe not be traveling or not have to be only in one location, but to be able to do it maybe from their home and to be able to do sort of multiple locations. I mean, that's something that's appealing from an efficiency standpoint, and it's also appealing from kind of a workforce and an employee standpoint. So yeah, that's the kind of thing that is appealing, I think, in a win on multiple levels.
You've got technology partnerships with the companies in France, as you said before, and it's a real global effort.
Yeah, as I mentioned before, oil and gas industry where I come, there's a lot of innovation that comes out of the UK. And in this particular business that I'm in now, this CIPP was invented in the UK. So because of that, we naturally have, a pretty healthy, group of suppliers, technology partners in both the UK and in Europe. And, when you think about infrastructure in general, in Europe and everything else, I see that continuing for sure. So
yes. Yes, we hope to see you over here soon, because you've got this very strong connection with the UK, of course, having lived here for quite a while.
I do. We have a special place in our heart for the UK. We lived over there for 6 years, and my son was born there, and both my kids went to primary school there. Came to Texas and lost their accents in 8 weeks, which is interesting in itself.
Yeah,
is all it takes. But anyway, so yeah, we get back regularly, and we've got an office, our headquarters, where ultimately In Situ Form UK is headquartered, really kind of the center where it all started is in Wellingborough. So that's not too far from you.
Nope.
So I can hopefully next time I get over there, we'll be able to maybe catch up live.
Yeah, and certainly water is a real hot topic in this country because the aging infrastructure, exactly as you describe, is leading to all sorts of issues, and the investment. There's a lot of hot debate about the the investment required and how it should be being done or whatever, and that sort of debate is certainly raging on at the moment. So I think there's an opportunity here. So I wanted to now go back, to sort of dive back into some of your previous roles and to talk about, from a leadership perspective, how you go about building teams. So you've come into Aegion quite recently, for example, and perhaps in some of your previous roles. I'm just keen to explore some of those, the pieces that maybe some of the principles that you go into organizations with to then sort of build teams and drive change and innovation. Bit of a wide topic, of course, but we'll move on after that.
Yeah, no, it's a great question. I've had the opportunity, as you know, Duncan, to do it, and to do, whether through integrations, sort of change management, both here and in the UK, and in sort of public company environments as well as sort of private company environments. So we've got a lot of experience in that area and enjoy it. It all starts with sort of listening, particularly when you're in a new environment. For me, this is new. I came from an oil and gas and an energy environment where technology is maybe more to premium. It's certainly more advanced by its nature. You're doing things that are much more challenging, but there's challenges in the water industry and in any industry, and sort of spending that initial time up front to sort of listen, learn, and then figure out where you can apply these learnings from these other industries based on experience, to me is sort of the overall key. A lot of other things you got to do to get there, depending on where you're at in your evolution, the culture and the business's ability to change. You've got to assess all that, but ultimately listen, learn, and then build the roadmap and kind of bring the team along with you is the puzzle that, if you get it right, is hugely rewarding.
Yes, it is. When you sort of recognize that sort of the level of ability to change and what have you, and then sort of taking that change journey forward and bringing people with you. There's some examples here in your previous roles perhaps in the oil and gas industry where that's happened, and you work through that. And it's very, very tough and everything. There are some examples where you've done that and it's really worked.
My experience over in the UK helped me sort of tremendously. I mean, this was an oil and gas business that had sort of been built up with sort of multiple acquisitions, right? And so this whole concept of when you build up and you sort of acquire these sort of different technologies, should you keep them separate and keep everybody sort of running their own show, or should you kind of at some point to make it scalable, you've actually got to integrate. You've actually got to do the work to sort of take people out of silos and work sort of across the common platform. And that's hard.
Yeah,
That's hard, particularly with small technology companies where people are used to working with kind of a small group of kind of trusted colleagues, and now they find themselves having to interact with a broader range and styles and sometimes countries. It's very different and very difficult. So you've got to spend a lot of time one-on-one. You've got to understand the needs of the different constituents, and then you've got to find a way to sort of bridge those gaps and kind of set a vision and strategy where people are bought in, and then ultimately, move forward together. So, each one's very, very different. There is a playbook, but that playbook, changes every time. And that's the neat, unique and fun part about it.
Yeah. So your whole approach sounds highly sort of people oriented, ultimately.
Absolutely.
Yeah. You that's the job, is to just work together and try to build a consensus, and then move forward in that way, and then hopefully bring people with you, and then just keep going. And that's the work.
That's the ultimate goal for sure. Easier said than done.
Yes, it is. Yes. So it's fascinating to hear about that. And then your background sort of prior to that was with GE, right? Is that your sort of foundational sort of career experience?
Yeah. No. I started out of college as a field engineer, and so I've had a sort of a kind of a field customer service thread throughout sort of my whole career. I enjoy being out. I enjoy being out with the crews. I enjoy being outside. I enjoy building things, and I enjoy being around customers. And so, I started out with GE in the energy business, and spent time both in this country and abroad, and again in the UK. Spent a lot of time in Wales, in different places, building power plants, refurbing power plants, and ultimately, with some of the clean coal and some of these other kind of initiatives, and then ultimately renewables. I've been on that journey. And then I moved to oil and gas, and that had a strong European connection as well. Yeah, we were headquartered in Florence with Nuevo Pignoni, and where they had a big compressor business, global compressor business. And we did a lot of, since GE wasn't a traditional oil and gas player, we did a lot of acquisitions, and I was able to sort of hone my skills on, going through different integrations, different acquisitions, kind of around the world. You get pretty good at finding common themes and figuring out how to take what on the surface sometimes is disparate pieces and put them together in a way that, adds value. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah. So sometimes it's every situation is different, but then there's obviously similarities as well that you can kind of you can draw on with that experience.
Yep.
So let's go back to Aegion then, and the journey there. Then where do you what's the to the extent in which you can really talk about it? Whereabouts is Aegion on that journey at the moment, and what are your sort of key focus areas right now?
Yeah, I think that, in a word, it's probably technology.
Yeah.
One of the things that sort of appealed to me with this role is, obviously with my background in oil and gas, where sort of technology is sort of top of mind, in other industries and some of the industrials, not as much.
Yes.
But that's where we can accelerate it. So I think, that's where I can sort of help. But, if you think, I was thinking about this the other day, Duncan, you think about developing CIPP in 1971 in the UK. You and I are, old enough to remember that was before the internet.
Yeah.
And so, this technology was invented. You could do this stuff, but we were doing it with no internet, not even no internet,
Yeah.
And so things were done on clipboards. Things were done by, sort of just eyeballs and crawling down in holes and kind of doing what you can. And then, and then the internet came, and we were all kind of connected, right? We could kind of see what everybody else was doing, was kind of stage one. And then for me, probably about 20 years ago, you started to hear about this industrial internet, right? To where now, automation became sort of a big deal.
Yeah.
And we've been in that phase for quite some time. And so, kind of made some changes, and you could sort of automate some of this stuff. And in our industry, that's where robotics sort of picked up. And now you could do things in a little more sort of clever way, but you were still restricted by, bandwidth and all those kind of things. And now, industrial Internet of Things isn't good enough anymore. Now everybody wants the artificial kind of Internet of Things.
Yeah.
So, AI is kind of the next wave, in finding ways to be kind of even more efficient. So, a lot of industries out there are anxious and able, particularly with the technologies available out there, to make themselves better, to make themselves more productive, wherever they are kind of in that journey. But that journey's been going on for 30 years. And
Yes.
It's likely not slowing down anytime soon, as you're well aware.
And this is your digital water term. That's where you've coined it, as it were, just to make sure that the emphasis is on the technology.
Exactly. I mean, I think a lot of industrials over here, and I'm sure, in the UK as well, are on that journey. And it's a journey we think makes a ton of sense for investors, for customers, and ultimately for employees.
Yeah, and I think that's why I've really enjoyed finding out about it, because it's a fascinating area because of the massively positive sort of outcome in the use of technology for the people involved in it. In the past, you'd have people spending nearly all their time down holes in the ground in very unpleasant circumstances, and now you have a situation now where the jobs are so much more interesting, but also there's so many more problems than in your sector than there is sort of money or even people, even if you had all the people in the world. So the technology and innovation is what can actually make more people end up with clean water and less waste. There's kind of no downside here, and it's quite often technology and change is associated with job losses, and it's all a bit of a negative, and the change is the projects are more expensive and than they thought they were going to be. Everyone's upset, and so the whole thing. It sometimes can be quite difficult to find positive stories, but this is really is one, I think, where it's just all good, isn't it? Really.
Yeah, I mean, you have to be intentional about it. I mean, I do think you bring up a good point. There's a lot of situations where, people throw technology at things for the sake of throwing technology at things, right? Because it's cool, or it's shiny, or it seems like it should be a good idea. But you do really need to think through, what is the real, the cost? What's the benefit for investors?
Yeah.
What's the cost and benefit for customers? And then ultimately, what's the cost and benefit for employees? And if all three of those, kind of turn green, then now you've got something that's sort of worth pursuing. If you've got, a red one or two, then, maybe not so much. But I do think there's a lot of learning there too. And if you get it right, and for all the reasons you stated, I think, the water industry, clearly its importance in our overall world and infrastructure is a place that's ripe for, better and more technology. And that's what we're trying to do.
Yeah. And then the AI bit, is that just, again, the ability to provide more automation and process more data more quickly? Or what's the sort of angle there that you're thinking about, the role of AI?
Yeah. So, the best way to think about, AI in our industry, in our industry, a lot of what's going on now is there's a lot of AI work going on around what we call coding. So when you inspect a pipe, the old way is you you just take a video, right? You just take a video. You just run a camera.
Yeah.
And you run it, and so you've got miles and miles and miles and miles and miles of pipe. You think about that, and then at some point, whether it's DDD or however you got it there,
you can't just watch it.
It comes back to a person.
You guys just watch it, yeah.
And there's a person somewhere in a dark room who's watching hours and miles and miles and miles of pipe, and then saying, "Oh, I think I see something."
Yeah.
And saying, "That's a this." "Oh, I see another one. That's a this." And that's how it was done.
Yeah.
It doesn't take, too much of a leap to think, whoa, okay, the cameras are better, the data rates are better. Man, if I could just, speed that up, or if I had a better way, in this case AI, to maybe identify, those problems and sort of code them, wow, that would be more efficient. It'd be more efficient, use of time for the company and for the employees. It'd be more consistent for the customers, because, people make mistakes, especially when you're looking for hours and hours and hours and hours and hours in a dark room.
Yeah.
And, there's plenty of work, much more, much different ways to sort of deploy, the talent that's out there than just, sitting in a room looking at hours and hours of video. So this idea of, again, it's got to hit all three of the buckets, but I mean, there's a really opportunity here to, to offload some of that work, to subcontract some of that work, not overseas, but to, kind of an AI engine, and allow those employees to get different jobs and better jobs.
Yeah.
And that's that's some of the work that's going on in our industry right now.
Yeah, fascinating. Yes. So that would be, I guess, the sort of key takeaway for you then. Really, it's like you say, is when you're looking at where to sort of deploy your investment, is those green lights that you're describing there. Would that be your one recommendation to the listeners for how to figure out how to make use of technology?
That's how I think about it.
Yeah.
And if technology for technology's sake, doesn't get you all the way there, but if it has a tangible, you can just think through a tangible return for the investors, for your customers, and for your employees, you're going to find that adoption rates are higher, because it's ultimately the right answer. And so you'll have better buy-in, and you'll be able to get to, the right answer, much more quickly.
Yes. All right. Well, I think that's a great place to end. So really, thanks very much for joining us today, Jim. It's just been brilliant to meet up and to talk through your work with Aegion. You can find me on LinkedIn. I'm Duncan Prior. What's the best place of getting in touch with yourself, Jim?
I would say LinkedIn is great as well. You'll see me as Jim Junker, can look up, and that's a great place to start.
Well, you can catch all the episodes, including Series 1, on our website, or by searching for the Making Things Work podcast on all the usual audio apps. And if there's someone else you would like to have on the show, please do get in touch with me. I'm happy to meet everybody. And we'll be back next month for the next episode. Thanks very much for listening. And thanks again, Jim. All the best.
Thank you, Duncan. Have a great day.
Thank you.